Hello, everyone, and thanks for being with us here on News 12, where local matters. I'm Amanda Bossard, and this is Ask the Mayor. It is a pleasure to be back here with you for the next half hour as we give you an opportunity to ask Mayor Eric Adams your questions right here on the air. The number to dial is 718-861-6800. It will be at the bottom of your screen throughout the program for reference. Before we get to that, though, a critical moment for New York City today as a federal judge weighed whether to dismiss the charges against Mayor Eric Adams. News 12's Natalie Hernandez was inside of the courtroom as it all unfolded. And Natalie, what was it like?
Mayor Adams stood his ground in court today, keeping his head held high and maintaining his innocence. But a federal judge made sure that he understood that even if the charges are dropped now, they could be reinstated later. Federal Judge Dale Ho asked the mayor several questions in Manhattan federal court and ultimately said he wasn't rushing on a decision on whether or not to dismiss the charges against the mayor. But he said he knows the case can't drag on forever for the sake of public safety. The Department of Justice says they want this case resolved fast, saying it poses a threat to national security and immigration policy. They say the mayor needs to lead our city without legal uncertainty holding him back. Lawyers argued that the charges make it harder for Adams to govern and could impact the upcoming mayoral election with a primary set for June. Today's hearing was called after 3 former Trump administration lawyers pushed to dismiss the case. It also follows the resignation of Manhattan's top federal prosecutor, who refused an order to do the same.
Natalie, thank you. Meanwhile, protests intensified as calls grow for Mayor Adams to step down. Demonstrators gathered outside of the Department of Education headquarters and the courthouse today, where the mayor was met with boos as he arrived. News 12 Shakti Dennis was there. She joins us now with those details.
The pressure is mounting for Mayor Adams to either step down or for Governor Kathy Hochul to remove him from office. Critics of the mayor, including multiple elected officials, have been protesting for several days now. Here at the courthouse today, about a dozen protesters booed the mayor as he stepped out of his SUV and up into the courthouse. Some were urging the mayor to resign, others urging the Judge Ho not to dismiss the federal corruption case against the mayor. Protesters also gathered outside the Department of Education headquarters earlier today, calling for him to step down. They say they've lost trust in the mayor's leadership following the corruption case and the allegations of a quid pro quo with the Trump administration, which sparked a wave of high-profile resignations from his administration and prosecutors. The governor does have the power to remove him from office, and she had said that she was waiting for today's hearing before making any decisions. At a press conference on congestion pricing shortly after the hearing this afternoon, this is what she said.
Mayor Adams is the elected mayor of New York City. I'm the governor of New York. New York City is a subdivision of the state of New York. I also have responsibilities to make sure the services are provided to 8.3 million people that I also represent. I'm not concerned about that. There is a path forward to make sure we stabilize this city and its government.
There is a lot to get to surrounding what happened in court today. I know that last week, after that memo from the DOJ directing prosecutors to drop your charges, you said that we could put this chapter behind us, but there was no decision from the judge today in that hearing. How do you feel about where things stand and having to wait further for that ultimate decision in the case?
Well, it's all part of the process. The wheels of justice grind slow, but exceedingly fine. And, we have to respect the process. And as I stated over and over again, I am confident that it is going to be found that I did nothing wrong and justice is going to prevail. And I have a great attorney. He's doing his job. My focus has continuously been on running the city and really fighting on behalf of working class people.
Now, today's hearing did happen because there was pushback from federal prosecutors, several of them even resigning rather than move to drop your charges late last week, in part of what because they say was a deal between you and the Trump administration. So I'll ask you point blank, is there any deal between you or your lawyers and the federal government about cooperating or collaborating on immigration enforcement or any other fronts in exchange for your charges being dropped?
First, let me answer absolutely not. And I said that under under oath, under the threat of perjury today in court. I raised my right hand and I answered that question directly by the judge, Judge Ho. But also, you stated that the hearing was based on the actions of those leaving the Southern District of New York office. That is not accurate. The judge never stated that the hearing was because of that. He stated that the hearing was because he wanted to have an opportunity to hear directly from the prosecutor and from my attorney. At no time did he state that the reason we were in court was because of the actions of those who determined to leave the office instead of carrying out what they were told to do.
I will just note that the DOJ then appealed directly to the judge following those resignations late last week, and then that hearing was scheduled. Now, in light of everything that's developed as of the last week or so, your administration's ability to govern is being called into question. In fact, it was used as an argument in court today as to why the charges should be dropped, because they're a burden to your mayorship and to your candidacy as you run for re-election. Now, it's also being used by critics to support calls for your resignation or removal, especially following those 4 resignations of the deputy mayors earlier this week. What's your message to New Yorkers right now that reassures them that your case and everything surrounding it is not distracting you from doing the job of mayor?
Well, first, I really love my 4 deputy mayors, and I'm pretty sure they will have kind things to say about me as well. We've done some great work together, and I'm really disappointed to see them leave. But I respect when people want to make changes, no matter when it takes place. And if one wants to know how I'm going to manage the city, look at how I manage the city. When this first came to light, you heard the same usual suspects that are calling now. You heard them talk about Eric should step down. No, I stepped up. And what did we do? Record number of jobs, decrease unemployment in the city, looked at public safety, bringing down crime in the city, housing, city of yes man passed. Listen, I was clear then and I'm clear now. You cannot be judged only by what you have done, but what you have overcome. And I'm going to continue to overcome, and I've showed that from the day I was elected, from COVID to migrants and asylum seekers to crime to our economy. We moved this city and put it back on the right track.
Yeah. Now, the governor says that she's going to wait until she gets that decision from the judge, until she decides whether or not to remove you from office, which is a power that she ultimately has. That would also be a historic move, first of its kind, never been done in New York's history. She did seek counsel yesterday from other city leaders and again has held off on making a decision on that front. You have a working relationship with Governor Hochul. How likely is it, do you think, that she'd ultimately make that move?
Well, I have a great relationship with the governor. We have some real W's, from the subway safety plan to her giving us $1 billion, part of the $5 billion that went into the city of Yes, what we have done around mental health. And how we have been able to regain school control in the city. And so she said something also today when the question was asked, do you believe the mayor cannot run the city or manage the city? She says, no, I don't believe that. Anyone who is viewing this city through a clear set of eyes and the facts, not fiction, and not only their own personal agenda, they will see how well we've managed the city through crisis and during crises. And so I'm looking forward to continue my conversation with the governor. And I must be focused on my #1 primary agenda, and that is giving opportunities to working class people in the city.
Let's talk about the other big news of the day, congestion pricing. President Trump sending a letter revoking the federal approval of the toll. The governor, though, says that the cameras are staying on. So do you agree with the governor's decision to keep the toll in place despite the president's move to get rid of it?
Well, Governor Cuomo passed this legislation, and the state lawmakers moved it forward, and MTA is now responsible for the implementation of that, and the governor is going to make the decision on what's the next step on it. I have enough going on in these 5 boroughs to decide what's going to happen. That's state control. This is not city control, it's state control.
Now, after sending that letter, President Trump did post on social media that he, quote, saved New York, adding a line that reads, "Long live the king," to that post. Does that kind of language from the president of a democracy concern you at all?
Well, I think that's the question to ask the president what he meant by it. There's sometimes I tweet something. The other day I did a comparison of how Mein Kampf is a big lie, and all of a sudden people were saying I'm trying to compare myself to those who are Holocaust survivors. Listen, I am not in the business of being the road police and try to move to cancel people every time they talk. People should ask the president. That is not for me to define what the president said and what he meant.
Yeah, you mentioned those comments you made the other day and some of the comparisons that were said thereafter. You also had some strong words there for the public advocate during those same remarks. Any regrets about those comments you made over the weekend?
Which one? The comments towards the public advocate starting his day at 12 o'clock and trying to have me step down so he could become mayor without running a race, or Brad Lander saying that I did something that was wrong to the Jewish community that they don't agree with.
All right, the conversation is just getting started here on Ask the Mayor. 718-861-6800 is the number to dial if you have a question. Stay with us. We're taking your calls right after this quick break. Thanks so much for all of you tuning in to Ask the Mayor here on News 12 with New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Time to take some calls and get to some questions tonight. So we'll begin with a call from John from Pelham Bay. John, thanks so much for your call this evening. And what's your question for the mayor?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Good, quite well. And yourself?
Could be doing better. I'm wishing for warmer weather.
All right, John, what's your question for the mayor this evening?
So my question is how do you feel about your current situation that's in the media right now?
When you say current situation, you know, the inundation and John, I believe your first name, John. You know, nothing is more painful than being victimized twice. I broke no laws. I was targeted, and it impacted my family. And it impacted this entire city. And now I'm being victimized again by all of the distortion. You take a person of 40 years in government, 40 years, police officer, senator, borough president. My North Star has always been fighting on behalf of working class people, protecting them with a bulletproof vest and fighting for them in Albany and now as the mayor. And so it's painful, but all of us have painful moments. And I turn them into purposeful moments. I'm going to fight for the people of this city, and I'm always going to do that.
Mr. Mayor, earlier this week, the city comptroller, Brad Lander, who, full transparency, is also running for mayor in this year's election, he demanded a contingency plan from you by the end of the week as to how you plan to govern moving forward. Do you plan to provide him with that?
We will provide that to everyone to see. Just as during the beginning of this issue, there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of screaming and yelling and noise, and I stayed focused. And we delivered for the city, and we're going to continue to do that. And if you look at the city charter, you will see that the ascension to mayoralty based on a removal, Brad Lander, Jumaane Williams. It is hypocritical for individuals who would take the seat if I'm gone are leading voices on me leaving the seat. I'm never going to give up for the people of the city. I will never surrender, never step down. I'm going to step up and fight for working class people.
And on that same train of thought, the comptroller has said that if he doesn't get that plan from you, he plans to convene what's called an inability committee, which is another route of exploring removing you from office. To the point you just made, the public advocate, the comptroller, the city council speaker are all people who would sit on that panel. All of them have called on you to resign. What do you think of that dynamic should that come to play?
Well, I think that the speaker stated that the inability committee is supposed to come together when someone has a physical inability or inability to do the job. We see, based on my results, there is no inability to do the job. Jobs are up, crime is down, our city has recovered through COVID. We managed 220,000 migrants and asylum seekers. You're seeing someone that has the ability, not an inability.
I want to get to another question that we had coming in on social media. Jacqueline posted her question on Facebook, and she asks, if you don't win the election, and you can read it here, would you consider working with President Trump on his administration if he asks? Has that thought crossed your mind?
Well, first of all, I'm planning on winning the election. I'm running for a re-election on the Democratic line, and I'm going to get in the streets and visit working class people just as I did before. Remember the last...
I think we are experiencing once again some technical difficulties with the mayor there. We're going to work to try and get his feed back up. In the interim, though, we do want to revisit some of the conversation we had earlier in the show revolving congestion pricing and the back and forth that has gone on with it today. News 12's Heather Fordham joins us now with the latest updates on that.
A reaction has been pouring in all day from people in agreement and disagreement with the president's plan to stop congestion pricing. Governor Kathy Hochul already fighting back with a lawsuit. Today, she called this an attack on New York's sovereignty.
We do not back down, not now, not ever. Because who are we fighting for here? We're fighting for our residents, our commuters, our riders, our drivers, our emergency personnel. Life has gotten better for even those who have asthma, people with illness.
The tolling plan is once again in jeopardy. It began just over a month ago on January 5th. It charged drivers an additional toll beginning at $9 to enter Manhattan below 60th Street. Now, the MTA has argued the toll has done its job in reducing traffic during peak travel times and has encouraged more people to take public transportation. Meanwhile, those against the plan have stood strong to fight against the toll, saying it's put the financial burden on the backs of everyday families and workers who need to travel into Manhattan from the outer boroughs. Today, they claimed victory.
This is costing families thousands of dollars a year if it were to stay in effect. And that is why I'm so grateful that President Trump listened to our concerns and reversed the poor decision made by the Biden administration.
Now the question is, will those cameras be turned off? The governor says no, they will be staying on, and the decision will ultimately now be in the hands of a judge. In the South Bronx, Heather Fordham, News 12.
All right, Heather, thanks so much. As we wait to get back online with the mayor, we do have a News 12 exclusive to bring you tonight. Big political news brewing in the Big Apple. Andrew Cuomo making a comeback. Our News 12's Tara Rosenblum confirmed the former governor is set to announce his campaign by month's end. Cuomo, who resigned in 2021 amid sexual harassment allegations, has been privately telling allies his run is a near certainty. He is securing endorsements and campaign staff, seeing an opportunity as Mayor Adams battles low approval ratings and a federal indictment. We're going to ask the mayor what his thoughts are on this development when we come back right after this. Stay with us here on News 12 for Ask the Mayor. Welcome back to Ask the Mayor, and thank you, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, for sticking with us throughout all these technical difficulties we've been battling throughout the evening. I did want to give you a moment to address Jacqueline's question that she posted on Facebook, asking whether you'd consider a job in the Trump administration if it came to that.
And as I stated, it's not going to come to that because I'm going to win re-election. I'm running for re-election on a Democratic line. I'm looking forward to going into the streets, speaking to everyday New Yorkers. I've been here before. I've been the underdog. This is not new. People count you out, but as long as you count on yourself, and I count on the working people of this city to hear my message and see my accomplishments.
Speaking of re-elections, we had sources exclusively confirm to News 12's Tara Rosenblum, someone you've spoken to in the past, that former Governor Andrew Cuomo will announce a run for mayor by the end of the month. What is your reaction to that news, and how do you think that's going to impact your campaign moving forward?
Well, you know, my mother always stated that you're not competing against others, you're competing against yourself. Do what you're supposed to do, and that's what I'm going to do. You remember in 2021, there was another Andrew. He was beating me by double digits in the middle of February, and I stated I'm going to stay focused, no distractions, and I'm going to work hard and grind for New Yorkers, and we're not calling that Andrew mayor, we're calling Eric Adams mayor.
All right, a throwback to 2021 with that reference to Andrew Yang there. Now, last time that we spoke, you said that you are a true blue Democrat, your words. Now, since then, there have been some reports about a potential run on the Republican Party line without changing parties for you. Is that something that you're considering right now?
Right now, we're straight ahead running on the Democratic line. I'm a true blue Democrat, but I'm also a true blue working class, blue collar person. Like we solved the problem last time I was on your show where we had mold inside one of the shelter locations. We sent the team out there, that mold is gone. Responding to everyday New Yorkers and getting stuff done is how you're going to win a re-election.
And on the topic of getting stuff done, you were meeting with the border czar last week in terms of talking about immigration. Any future conversations that you plan to have with him moving forward, and any other collaboration we could see on that front?
Well, we're going to collaborate with any and everyone that is going to be focused on keeping New Yorkers safe in the city. And I've stated that over and over again. And people say this is a new idea from me. No, go back to 2022 when I was talking about this issue, and we're going to continue to do that.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we appreciate your time and answering all the questions during a historic time tonight. And thank you to our viewers for calling in with your questions. We'll see you next time. Mr. Mayor, thanks for hanging on with us despite all